Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Was True Red Dragon Emperor Part 2. Chapter 9. After a month Issei was at a hospital with his stepfather. His mother was in labor. Then his stepfather was walking around nervously. Issei spoke, "Mommy will be okay." He just nodded at his stepson's statement. After a few minutes weary silent, Issei felt his phone vibrated. He looked to his phone. Kanu was messaging him. "How your mom?" she asked. Issei texted back, "She in labor, I'm sure she'll be okay." Then they heard a baby crying. Issei's stepfather was now jumping in joy. He spoke, "Yes. I'm a dad now." Issei could frown that his father doesn't see him as a son or part of the family. Issei could only think what would happen later in time. They entered the room and saw the baby being held by her mother. As Issei's stepfather was excited to hold his daughter. Issei's mother was happy to have another child. She spoke, "Zero, her daughter name is Lily." "Lily? Can I hold her?" Issei's stepfather spoke with a smile. She smiled and him hold her daughter. Issei was like on the sidelines seeing the family. He felt like he was being forgotten. After a few days they left the hospital with a new family member. Issei's father was spending time with his daughter as his mother was doing the same. Issei could only watch from a distance. He felt he wasn't human. Issei spoke to himself, "One should be proud that I'm a dragon." Trying make himself feel better. Issei left the house as always and went to Yasaka home and spent his day there. Every time he is with Kanu and Yasaka he felt like part of them, like family. Every once in a while he spar with them, but he always finishes them in few seconds. They began to get stronger by training. After training Yasaka and Kanu was laying on the ground taking a breather. Yasaka asked, "Issei. How is your sister?" "Well, she is being cared by my parents, giving all her attention," Issei responded. Yasaka and Kanu got up and hugged Issei tightly. Kanu spoke, "You have us. Don't feel left out." Issei was glad to have them as support. Then he felt large breaths from Yasaka pressing to him. Issei slowly moved away from the hug. Yasaka knew what she intended to do. She'll continue to tease Issei until he gives up. Kanu and Issei were like best friends. Issei see Yasaka as a supportive person. As for Kanu and Yasaka see him as a potential partner. When afternoon came Issei was returning back home. Issei entered his home and saw his parents chatting with someone in the table. Issei spoke, "I'm home." Issei's mother turned around and spoke, "Issei, we got news." "What?" he asked, wondering what could it be. Issei's stepfather spoke, "We're adopting a girl in here to present you." Issei looks at the person and was a girl around his age. He noticed that was wearing flashy clothes. She had jewelry on her wrist and ears. She spoke rudely, "This is Issei. You. He looks ugly and dirty." Issei's stepfather spoke, "Please be nice to him." "Why, look at him. He also smell like a girl." Issei's mother took a whiff of Issei and realized a scent of girl. Issei's mother spoke, "Issei, explain why you smell like girl." "Well, I got hugs." Issei responded truthfully, but he didn't realize it. Issei's mother was calm and spoke, "Take a shower and eat dinner with us." He just nodded and grabbed his clothes and showered. As he was taking a shower he was thinking how to deal with the girl. She was like a city girl. After he showered he put his clothes on and went to the dining table. Issei had his food and started eating. The city girl spoke, "Issei, my name is Emilia, to be clear." Issei just nodded and continued eating. Emilia was started to get mad. Issei didn't care her presence. She noticed that Issei had a large serving than an average person. She also saw Issei had chiseled body and muscles. She hated that Issei was not normal, didn't cared about her, nor paid attention to her during dinner. Issei was the first one finish his food and went to sink to wash it. Emilia spoke, "Hey papa, my friends and I are going out to Tomorrow the fair." Issei's stepfather spoke, "Sure, here's some money for you. Issei would have to go with you." Issei almost dropped his plate because he has to go with her. Emilia spoke, "No. I don't want Issei to come. Just my friends and Elle." Issei's stepfather spoke, "No matter what. I need someone to watch you over to be safe." "Fine." As Emilia crossed her arms. Issei spoke, "Can I have a friend over tomorrow to join me?" Issei's mother was happy that Issei had a friend all along. She happily responded, "Sure, Issei." Emilia was more disgusted by Issei on the first day. Issei ignored Emilia his stepsister antics. After cleaning his dishes he went to his room. He locks his door and unfurled his wings and tail. He looks out of the window seeing the town with several lights. Issei took out his and started texting, "Hey Kanu, want to go together at the fair tomorrow?" Then an instant reply came, "Sure. Why not?" "Oh yeah, my mom asked if she could come." "Yeah, your mom can come. See you tomorrow and your mom." Issei responded, "Yeah, can't wait." Issei put away his phone and laid on his bed with his wings out and fell asleep. As for Kanu, she felt that is a date. Yasaka felt happy that Issei said yes to her request, also felt like a date too. The next day Issei woke up, it was 11 in the morning. He put away his wings and went to backyard. He started training alone, doing workout and martial arts. He made sure to train properly. After an hour training he began to eat his lunch. Issei saw his baby sister in the crib. He approached her and spoke, "Hey sis, big brother is here to say hello." Lily began to move her head as she continued sleeping. Issei smiled at his little sister. He went to his room and dressed up. After a few minutes he outside with his stepsister with an annoying look. Emilia spoke, "Okay Issei. Don't speak to me or my friends. 2 I'm not buying you. 3 just feel grateful that you able to join us." Issei could scoff and spoke, "Whatever." The 2 step-siblings went to the fair event. Once reaching there Emilia saw her friends. Emilia spoke, "Hey girls. You came." One her friend spoke, "Hey girl. We're about to have fun. And who is this douchebag?" Issei felt offended but kept his mouth shut. Emilia spoke, "Arg. He is my step-brother that my distant relative decided to adopt me. Don't worry, he won't bother us. Okay. Let's go." As her friend spoke, the group entered the fair as Issei behind them. Before he could enter he heard 2 voices calling him. Issei wait up. It was Kanu and Yusaka and they were wearing casual clothes. Kanu was wearing blue jeans and with a white shirt. Yusaka was wearing blue shorts that reaches her thighs and black shirt with a V shape in the middle, which showed part of her large cleavage. Issei turns around and spoke, "Hey. Sorry for not waiting." Yusaka spoke, "Well we're here now." Emilia noticed that Issei wasn't following them. She looks behind her and saw a woman and a girl talking to Issei. It seems they know each other as she thought. Yusaka began to hold Issei's hand as Kanu did the same. Issei started to lead the way. Kanu and Yusaka were blushing like they were in real date. Emilia was confused how Issei was making a woman and girl blush. They started to get on rides. Kanu and Yusaka would try every time get a ride with Issei. After a few hours they were feeling hungry. Issei decided to buy them food. Yusaka and Kanu happily accepts. Issei noticed they had their faces red. He had no clue why. Emilia noticed that Issei was more paying attention to them instead on them. She wondered how they met. During their walk Emilia and her friends ran into a group of boys bit older than them. They began to talk with each other. Issei was holding Kanu and Yusaka hand. Kanu and Yusaka would try get the attention of Issei. Kanu spoke, "Issei, should we go get shaved ice cream?" Issei responded, "Sure. What about Yusaka-sama?" Sure. He'll join too." Yusaka responded with a smile. Kanu began to give a pouting face at her mother. As Yusaka would smirk at her daughter. They spilled from Emilia group and went to the shaved shop. Once they reached there Issei spoke, "What you want Kanu?" "Well get me blueberry a small size." Kanu responded with a thoughtful look. "And you Yusaka-sama?" Issei asked. Yusaka responded as she leaned toward Issei, "Well cherry large size." Yusaka but smiled, she intentionally showing most of her cleavage to Issei for him to see. As Issei was battling his dragon side not to show any embarrassment, Kanu began to give a glare at her mother. If it wasn't her mother she'd tear her to pieces. Issei went to the shop and ordered. He paid for them including himself. He came back with 3 shaved ice cream. He gave one to Kanu and Yusaka according to their order. They started to head back and saw Emilia and her friends were waiting for them, mainly Issei. Emilia spoke with anger, "Where were you? I've been waiting here for you." "Waiting for what?" Issei asked. "That you got lost." Emilia yelled at Issei. Yusaka and Kanu had their eyes closed with anger. Kanu just wanted to destroy the girl with no remorse, it was the same with Yusaka. Issei spoke, "Elle did not, or you just got scared to be alone." Emilia was about to open her mouth but became quiet. She didn't want to admit that she's scared to be alone since she always been with someone. Kanu and Yusaka were laughing by the inside. Emilia spoke, "Since it's getting late let's go to Ferris wheel." Issei nodded and walked to the ride. Yusaka and Kanu had an idea. Emilia and her friends got to the ride together as Issei with Kanu and Yusaka. Issei was sitting in middle between Kanu and Yusaka. During the ride Yusaka and Kanu got close to Issei to the point they had their bodies on him. Yusaka was the first to speak, "Issei, I got something to tell you." "What is it?" Issei asked. "That L." Then Kanu blurted out, "One like you Issei." Issei looks at Kanu and she had red all over her face. Issei was shocked that Kanu told her feelings. Kanu spoke, I don't want mom to beat me." Issei looks at Yusaka, which she also red on her face. Issei asked, "What do you mean?" "Because I love you Issei." Yusaka spoke with a blush. Issei was in middle of turmoil. He didn't know that a daughter and a mother like him. He was trying to comprehend everything. Kanu spoke, "One guess that it hard to understand. I like you and same with my mom. I don't know who to choose." Issei spoke. Yusaka spoke, "You are a dragon. Which you can have multiple lovers. A harem. If my daughter agrees. Yeah, I can live with that." Kanu spoke. Issei in shock that a daughter and mother are willing to share him. He felt pride in him like he hit a milestone. Issei spoke with a blush, "Yeah, to be honest I like both of you. It's hard. For me to choose. If you agree do Amel." Yusaka and Kanu felt their hearts racing. Then they pinned Issei to the seat and they kissed Issei on his lips at the same time. For Issei was another shock that it was his first kiss. Yasaka and Kanu spoke in unison, "I love you, Issei." After the ride, Issei was holding Yasaka and Kanu hands. Emilia never knew what transpired during the ride. Before they left, they took Issei to the sidelines. Yasaka spoke to Issei, "Thanks for accepting my feelings." With a blush. Kanu would nod her head and spoke, "Same here, Issei." Issei spoke, "I like you both. I need to go." Yasaka and Kanu nodded and kissed Issei on his lips once again. Then after they left for home. Yasaka and Kanu were happy that they finally got what they wanted. They are not longer friends but lovers. They would still compete for Issei. Issei was walking back with his stepsister back home. Issei was in middle of thoughts what just happened. He now has 2 girlfriends, but at his age, many think it's just a game, but his relationship was real. They returned back home. Their parents were waiting for them. Issei's mother spoke, "Enjoyed your time at the fair?" Emilia and Issei nodded. Issei's stepfather asked, "What happened then?" Emilia began to speak about her experience as Issei's mind was in another world. When it was Issei's turn, he spoke what happened but didn't mention about his relationship because if he did he was going to be teased. Especially would not mention to his stepsister. After chatting, Issei showered and went to bed with a smile on his face. There were more things to happen in his childhood. His ancestor would be happy for him. After a few months, Issei was at school. He was supposed to work with someone on their homework. Not surprisingly, it was Kanu who partnered with Issei. His classmates thought they are best friends since the dare. In reality, they were dating. Kanu was happy by the inside. While doing their homework in class, Kanu took hold of Issei's hand and were holding hands under the table. They had their shoulders touching each other. After their homework, they returned to their seats. The class resumed to normal and the teacher began to teach. When lunch came, Kanu and Issei sat together in the cafeteria. They were secretly holding hands. During lunch, a group of boys entered the cafeteria. Several of the kids didn't look at them. Most of them were boys. The group was around the age of 10. The group was looking for someone to bully. The boys were praying not to be the victim. They know what would happen. If one was picked first, they would throw their food to the ground. Then ask for their possession or make fun of them. There were times when victim fought back but always beaten by the group. Though the group got in trouble for bullying but their parents didn't cared. The group saw it. 2 people to pick on. It was Kanu and Issei. Issei and Kanu were in their own world not knowing what was going down. They heard them speak, "Hey guys, are you hungry?" Issei turns around and looks at them and responded, "Yeah, why?" One of the boys knocks Issei and Kanu lunches to the ground. Kanu looks her lunch at the ground. The whole cafeteria was looking at them. Issei simply at his lunch, then at them. The other boy spoke, "Are you hungry now? Pick it up." Kanu was about to pick up her lunch, but Issei stopped her. Issei dragon pride won't let this slide. Elle said, "Pick it up." The boy started raising his voice. Issei didn't respond but continued looking at them. One of the boys reached their hand to grab Kanu's hair. Issei snapped at it. He gets up and grabs the boy's hand and made him flip on the table. Now it turns to a fight. One of the boys tried to punch Issei, but Issei was much quicker. Issei punched him square in the face. One jumped on his back, but Issei elbowed him and punched him. One of them punched Issei on his stomach. For Issei was nothing, he kicked him, sending him flying to one of the tables. Within 15 seconds the group was destroyed. Issei defended Kanu, which he felt prideful. The teachers came and saw the outcome. They saw Issei without a scratch, but the rest were bleeding with bruises. They were going to punish Issei, but let him off the hook since it should teach the group not bully again. Kanu was happy that Issei defended her. After school, Issei was back home unloading his backpack. Emilia was at her friend's house. Issei saw his baby sister in the crib while his mother was in kitchen. His stepfather was on the couch watching TV. His stepfather spoke, "Elle got a call from school that you got into a fight. Care to explain?" As he was trying to be calm from the anger. Issei responded, "Yeah. Because I defend my guy friend. You know what, I can ground you." As his stepfather started to raise his voice. Issei looks at his mother, but his mother was quiet. She wanted to defend him but couldn't. "Got a problem with that?" Issei asked. His stepfather spoke with anger, "Don't get smart with me. Listen, I do what I want to do, how to do it. Plus you're not my real dad. You can't ground me, only my mom can." Issei spoke. His stepfather was silent and couldn't say anything. After he is not his real dad. Issei spoke, "I'm going out to clear my head. Plus my dad would be proud of me. I'll keep my promise to him." His stepfather was about to talk about his dad, but his mother stops him. "Please don't say it." His mother spoke. Issei left the house and headed to Yasaka's home. He was in a bad mood, he wanted to teach him a lesson. He entered his girlfriend's home and saw Yasaka and Kanu waiting for him. They felt his mood so immediately went to comfort him. His mood gotten better that his girlfriends were there for him. After a few hours they were having a dinner together. Issei was sitting between his girlfriends. Yasaka spoke, "Issei, would you spend the night with us?" "Sure." Issei responded. Anu spoke, he joined too. After dinner Issei was sleeping on the king-size bed. Yusaka and Kanu were on his both sides. Yusaka spoke, we'll say. Yeah Yusaka. Issei asked. Do you want to be my husband? Yusaka asked with a blush. Me too Issei. Kanu spoke with a blush. Issei responded, I do. Yusaka hugged him to her large chest as Kanu was hugging his back. Issei spread his wings out, wrapped them in warmth. His dragon side was telling him that he'll have fun. 1 year later Issei was 7 years old. Issei was engaged with Yusaka and Kanu. He kept it secret from everyone. He was at Yusaka home, he was getting married that night. He made an excuse to his parents that he was staying at friend's house for the night. His parents didn't question since he always out most of the time. He was in a room with his suit on. He felt nervous that he was getting married at young age. His assistant was assuring him that he'll be fine. The wedding was a secret from the supernatural world that no one will speak about out it. They don't want other leaders questioning them. Issei was on a podium with his wings and tail out. The Yakai faction was present seeing him. Then the doors opened, which was Misaka and Kanu in their wedding dress. They had their ears and tails out. Just imagining a dragon on their side would be powerful. The two brides were walking to the podium. They had smiles on their faces. There was Elder Yakai and began to start the ceremony. The elder gave them rings. Issei put the rings in their fingers. Then they took a drink from a golden cup. At the end they kissed, making a official couple. I'm terrible describing about weddings. The whole faction clapped and cheered for the couple. Yusaka and Kanu were now married with Issei. Within minutes they had banquet. Many Yakais came to congrats the couple. Yusaka spoke, we'll say we are finally a family. I've been waiting for this moment to happen. Kanu later spoke, I'm happy to be married with you Issei. Issei was in focus of his life, that how everything started. He truly loved them deeply. After hours passed, the banquet was over. Issei was in a large bedroom, saw everything lit up by candles. Yusaka and Kanu were behind him. Issei would go to bed, but this night was different. Yusaka spoke seductively, we'll say should we have fun first? Yusaka began sway her hips as she began walk towards Issei. She leaned down and began to kiss Issei passionately. Issei began to kiss back. Yusaka turns to her daughter and spoke, what are you waiting Kanu? Kanu approached Issei and also began to kiss him. Yusaka began kiss Issei's neck. Issei's dragon was telling him follow the flow. Issei began places his hands on their hips. Issei began to move to their necks and bit gently, marking them as his mates. Yusaka and Kanu were in bliss. Kanu spoke, time to step up. They began to strip Issei's clothes. They were looking at his chiseled body. They began kiss his chest to his abs. Issei began to stroke their hair. After kissing his body, Issei began to take off their wedding dress. Issei saw their bodies beautiful like silk skin. Yusaka spoke, enjoy it. Then she got down her knees. Issei began messaging Yusaka breasts as Kanu was kissing him. Yusaka began to moan. It was music to Issei's ears to hear their pleasure. Yusaka spoke, ah yes. More. Kanu had her hand on Issei's abs. She liked the touch of his hard workout. After a few minutes Issei finished message Yusaka breasts. Yusaka gave pouting face. She noticed Issei's boxer had a bulge. Yusaka grins, what in there? Issei felt Yusaka pulling down his boxer. Yusaka spoke seductively, what we got here? After pulling down Issei's boxer, his member came out, hitting Yusaka's face. It was pulsing, needing for attention. Surprisingly, it was 5-inch, enough to satisfy a woman. Yusaka began nuzzle his member. Kanu stops kissing and saw his size. She was quite shocked by the size of it. She noticed her mother smirking. Yusaka spoke seductively as Issei looks at her, should I do a tit job? As she started to squeeze her large breasts with her arms to make them look larger. Issei's eyes turned from brown to emerald green. Yusaka and Kanu were a bit shocked that his dragon side took over, which they are going to enjoy. Yusaka placed Issei's member between her large breasts and began to move up and down. Issei started to groan in pleasure. Yusaka began to giggle to see Issei enjoying the feeling. Kanu was behind Issei kissing his neck. She had her hand on Issei's wings, feeling the warmth. Then she looks at her mother what she was doing. She was jealous that her mother can do what she can't. Yusaka noticed her daughter's face and spoke, don't worry Kanu, you are still growing. That gave Kanu a smile that she has time to grow. She continued to kiss Issei's neck. Issei spoke dragonic tone, L''M close. Yusaka began to suck Issei's member to give more effect. Yusaka felt the heatness in her pussy dripping with juices. Yusaka spoke to her daughter, come here Kanu to feel your first facial cum. Kanu followed her mother order and was beside her. Issei spoke, I'm cooming. Yusaka spoke, Kanu opened your mouth wide and stick out your tongue. Kanu opened her mouth, eye and her tongue, and Yusaka did the same. Issei let out white hymen onto the two fox girls. Kanu felt warm and sticky liquid on her face and she felt some went to her mouth. As Yusaka had some on her breasts and her face. Yusaka spoke, Kanu swallow it. Kanu began to swallow the hymen. It tasted bit bitter, but the sensation was good. Then she started pick off of her face. Misaka began to do the same. She enjoyed the sensation. Issei was recovering from the load he gave. He wondered how this felt so good. He was wanting more pleasure. He saw how his wives was swallowing his load with love. Isaka spoke, "We'll say that was a big one load for a kid. Never in my life I ever experienced it. Kanu, how was it?" Anu was in bliss and responded, "Awesome." Isaka noticed that her daughter started to get corrupted. She'll make her the most corrupt daughter ever. Isaka spoke, "Kanu sucks his dick." Anu places her mouth on Issei member and slowly began to take his size. Issei grabbed Kanu, began to thrust in farther. Kanu began to gag but liked to be roughed. A few minutes Issei spoke, "Kuming." Issei gave another load in Kanu and she felt her mouth filling up. She decided to swallow it whole. Misaka was seeing her daughter taking hymen from Issei aroused her. After Kanu was done, Yusaka decided to be next. Yusaka to suck Issei's member to a deep throat while gagging. Issei gave another load in Yusaka's mouth. She began swallow it as her mouth was filling up. Yusaka spoke with her 9 tails up after drinking his hymen, "Should we go to bed to have fun?" Issei spoke with dominating voice, "Why not?" Anu and Misaka had their bodies shaking with excitement. His voice made them feel helpless to a predator. Issei spoke, "Get up." Anu and Yusaka stood up on their feet. Issei noticed that their pussy was leaking juices. Issei wrapped his arms around Kanu and Yusaka rears. He lifted them with ease. He felt the softness and smoothness of their plump. He intentionally squeezed their butt cheeks with his hand. Misaka and Kanu gasped by the sudden squeeze but relaxed, feeling the pleasure of being touched. Then he threw them lightly to the large white bed. Yusaka and Kanu yelped with excitement. Then Issei got onto the bed. He had his body over them. Yusaka spoke seductively, "Oh my. My Issei is going to take the initiative." He began to kiss Kanu passionately for a minute while touching her hips. Issei later kissed Misaka while squeezing her breasts. They were both moaning by the touches. His dragon instincts were guiding him how to pleasure a woman. Then he moved down to their pussy. He began lick Kanu while fingering Yusaka. Kanu spoke, "Ah, Issei. It feels good." Hept added, "I'm about cum." "Ah." Yusaka spoke while moaning. After a few minutes they both exclaimed, "Issei." Both came on Issei's face. Issei himself was getting hard. Yusaka and Kanu saw his condition. They smiled with lust. Both of them pinned Issei to the bed. Issei wondered what they have in mind. Isaka spoke, "I'm going to take your virginity, Issei." Isaka positioned herself in cowgirl position. Then she grabbed Issei member and slowly she was going down until she completely took his whole member. Issei felt whole new sensation, feeling the warmth in her body and fluids around his member. Issei spoke, "It feels so good." Isaka giggled and spoke, "You'll feel a lot better once I start moving." Kanu, come and sit on Issei's face. Kanu followed her mother order. Kanu stood on top of Issei. Kanu asked, "Issei. Would you like to?" "Yeah, I want it." Issei responded. Kanu sat on Issei's face and felt his warm breath under her. Issei began to eat her out and Kanu began to moan, then she started to move her hips. Issei placed his hands on Kanu's rear. Isaka spoke, "Hey, get started." Isaka began to move up and down. Issei began to moan of better pleasure. Yusaka began to feel pleasure also as she was riding on him. Her bounces were making clapping noises. 3 of them were in moaning mess for minutes. Kanu spoke, "Ah. It feels good." Issei spoke, "Going to cum." "Yeah, give it to me. Fill me up with your seed." Yusaka spoke as she her tongue out while bouncing on him. "Kuming." Issei spoke. Yusaka spoke, "Ah. Me too." He let out a large load in Yusaka. Yusaka felt all the pleasure. Yusaka stood sitting in Issei member until he finished. Kanu also came on Issei's face. They were taking a breather. Yusaka spoke, "I've been waiting for this load. So warm and good." Isaka got off of Issei and spoke, "Time to deflower Kanu." Issei. Isaka motioned her head at Kanu. Kanu approached her mother. Yusaka grabbed Kanu and positioned her on top of Issei's hard member. Kanu was quite nervous about her first time. Isaka spoke, "Don't worry, you feel a bit of pain, but you'll feel good. I got you, Kanu." Slowly Kanu was going down on Issei's member. Kanu winces in pain but continued because it started to feel good. Until finally she took Issei member whole. Isaka spoke, "Relax Kanu, once you got used to it move." After a minute Kanu felt comfortable began move. She happily gave virginity to Issei. Kanu spoke, "Ah yes. It's so good." Issei felt he hit another milestone in his life. Isaka got on Issei's face and began move her hips. Issei began eat her out at the fullest. Her large ass gave more effect for him to enjoy. Isaka spoke, "Ah Issei. You surely like big assets of a woman. You'll feel Kanu body once she grown." Issei placed his hands on Yusaka ass and began squeezing her ass. Then he decided to spank her ass, which made a loud smack. Isaka spoke, "0h. I like it. Keep spanking me. I'm your big slut." Issei continues to spank Yusaka while being fucked by Kanu. After several spanking it left Yusaka ass with several red handprints. Issei spoke, coming again. Kanu spoke, let me feel it. Issei gave another load in Kanu. Yusaka also came as before. Kanu had her tongue feeling the hymen filling her up. Issei was breathing heavily when Yusaka got off of his face. Kanu, look at my ass. Yusaka spoke. Yusaka turns around and Kanu saw handprints on her mother ass. Feel it when you get older. Yusaka spoke with a grin. Kanu felt excited to experience it. Kanu was completely corrupt by Hex. Yusaka was going to have fun with Issei. Yusaka and Kanu got on fours in doggy-style position. They both spoke, we're waiting for you Issei. Issei was ready for another round and chose Yusaka first, then Kanu. Each of them had a turn after a load after another. After 2 hours of doggy-style position. Kanu got on top her mother making a tower of ass. Issei chose the top to the bottom. All three of them were in moaning mess. After 3 hours Kanu and Yusaka were laying on bed as Issei was jerking off. Issei spoke, I'm coming. They both spoke, give it to us. Then Issei came and sprayed his seed on Kanu and Yusaka body. They both in unison, we love you Issei. Issei laid in bed hugging his 2 wives which 4 in the morning. He unleashed a personality that will be stuck to him when spend his nights with his wives. Misaka and Kanu were now have insatiable lust for Hex when they spend time with Issei. The next day Issei was in bed. He got married last night with Yusaka and Kanu. He felt 2 bodies pressing on him. He opened his eyes at his 2 wives sleeping on him. His father would be proud of him that he accomplished such an early age. Then Yusaka woke up and looks at Issei and spoke, hey Issei, how your sleep? Issei responded, best night of my life. Then Yusaka pulled him for a kiss which he kissed back. Then he felt beside him that Kanu was waking up. Kanu spoke, morning Issei. Kanu pulled Issei for a kiss which he also kissed back. Issei looks at the time at 7 in the morning. He had to get ready for school. All 3 of them got dressed up in the same room. Issei put away his wings and tail as same for Kanu. He noticed when they started walking they were quite limping. Issei asked, are you okay? You need to rest. I overdid it. They both spoke, we're okay. We rather be like this. Issei was quite confused but didn't mind much. He took Kanu's hand and walked out to school. Kanu had red on her face since they are married. When they got to school everything was normal, no one suspected they were married. They were in class. Issei was remembering the night that happened. He would grin and began to stare at Kanu like stalking its prey. Kanu noticed that Issei was staring at her. She could feel Issei's eyes were at every aspect of her body. She felt her body squirming. Issei could only smile that he was able to her aroused by him just staring. Then lunchtime came. Issei and Kanu were sitting away from other kids. They were sitting near a corner. Kanu was holding Issei's hand. Kanu spoke, today feel different when married to you. Issei kissed Kanu's head secretly and spoke, I'm happy with that and your mom. Kanu had pouting face by the mention of her mother. I'll share the same amount of love with you and your mom. Issei spoke with a soft tone. Kanu's face turned red from embarrassment. Yusaka felt her body squirming while having a meeting with the leaders. The leaders were quite confused. One of them spoke, are you okay Yusaka? Yeah. It's just my body condition. Yusaka responded. As I was saying about the dragon weight. Is that a marriage ring? As the leader asked. Yusaka looks at her hand and the ring on her finger. She just simply blushed. She responded, yeah I did. When was that? As the other leader asked. Last night. Yusaka responded a blush. The leaders were in shock. She just married without telling anyone. Wait. You got married without telling anyone just like that? The leader asked. Well, I was engaged for a year. Yusaka spoke. The leaders were now dumbfounded by the sudden revelation. One of them asked, who is this man? Does he knows about the supernatural? Yusaka responded with a smile, he knows about the supernatural, but he's still a boy, but he is a man at bed. One of the leaders couldn't handle the amount of information flooding in, and he just fainted. As others had their brains fried and others crashed trying to reset. Until one of the leaders spoke, LT must be official to the other factions. Yusaka spoke, listen, I want you guys to keep it secret for now until my husband decides to be official. I don't want our enemies finding out. Also the factions leaders would question me and him. The leaders regained their senses and just simply nodded. They decided to keep it secret until her husband announced their marriage. After the meeting the leaders left and Yusaka sighed in relief but felt happy. Issei was outside during recess. Kanu and Issei hid behind a tree. Kanu was sitting on him. She was kissing him passionately. Issei was surprised that Kanu had so much pervertness in her after their wedding. Kanu spoke as she broke the kiss, I love you so much. Same here Kanu. We're still kids. Issei spoke. Kanu smirked and spoke, really? What happened last night though we are kids? Issei had red face and Kanu liked to tease him every once in a while. Then Issei started to get a message from his phone. Issei looks at his phone and opens his mail and saw Yusaka on a photo making a pose on the couch. The message read. Can't wait for you. Issei felt aroused by her photo. Kanu felt something in Issei jeans poking her butt. Kanu accidentally moaned by the feeling. Issei quickly looks at Kanu and saw her face with bliss. He was thinking to tease her body but hold himself back since it was not the time or the place. Kanu wouldn't care anymore, she really wanted it at that moment. Kanu began to move hips sideways. Issei was trying to contain his mouth from making noises. Issei decided to take a photo together and sent it to Yusaka, which sent text saying look what you did. When Yusaka read the message, she was happy that her daughter was corrupted. She really liked it that her daughter was like her. The bell rung. Issei and Kanu had to go back to class. As the day moved on, everything was normal. The couple was walking on the street from school. Issei had his arm around Kanu's hips. Kanu was adding sway to her hips, though it wasn't much, but still added effect. Kanu spoke, I got something to tell you. Yeah, Kanu. Issei spoke. If you don't know, the town is holding a festival this weekend. My mom and I are going. Kanu spoke. Issei spoke, okay, I'll come. For you and your mom. Kanu would blush after hearing Issei is coming with them. Issei kissed Kanu before they left, then they went their separate ways. Issei was back home putting away his stuff. He took a look at his little sister and said hello before he left to his wife's home. As for Amelia, would stay in her room and text her friends about boys. Issei was at his wife's home. He entered carefree. Issei spoke, I'm back. Kanu and Yusaka ran up to him and kissed him passionately. Though it was an hour, they still wanted Issei on their side. They took Issei to the dining table, which he happily accepted it. After eating, Yusaka spoke, Issei, time for our secession. Issei was confused what she meant, but Kanu and Yusaka dragged Issei to their bedroom to have fun. When Issei realized what is going to happen, his dragon side took over. After hours passed, Issei was really into having sex every time whenever they take him to the bedroom. Yusaka and Kanu were wanting more after they finished one round after another. After a few days passed until the weekend came. Issei was at Yusaka home waiting for his wives to be ready to go. They came out with colorful kimono. Yusaka had purple flowers with pink as Kanu had yellow flowers with blue. They asked Issei with a smile, how do we look? Beautiful as always. Issei responded. He approached them and kissed them before they went to the festival. He took their hands and head out to the festival. When they got there, many people thought they are having a good time as friends. Issei offered his wives drinks and food. Kanu and Yusaka were enjoying themselves. When people are distracted, Issei would place his hand on Yusaka and Kanu's ass and slowly rubbing it. Their faces would get red by the touch. They didn't mind as long as Issei is there. As Issei was rubbing their asses, he decided to suddenly squeeze them. Kanu and Yusaka let out low yelp. They started to get embarrassed by making sudden noise. Yusaka spoke in a low tone, ah. Issei, you have a good grip on my ass. Issei, you are getting me out of control. Kanu spoke with her mouth open. After a few hours, the couple were walking around together. They having ice cream. Issei decided to take his wives for walk nearby park. Lemon. There weren't much people since most were at the festival. Yusaka and Kanu started to rub their bodies against Issei. He knew what they want. Yusaka spoke seductively, we want you to have fun with us. Then his two wives began to giggle that Issei was turned on so quickly. Issei took his wives nearby the bushes and trees that would give them cover. Yusaka and Kanu let out their ears and tails. Issei took off his clothes and including his boxers. Yusaka spoke seductively, took off our clothes. Issei approached Kanu and began to undress her slowly. Kanu's body began to get hot. As Issei took her kimono off, he noticed she wasn't wearing any undergarments. He simply grinned that it gone easier for him. Then he went to Yusaka and began to undress her, which she also wasn't wearing any undergarments. Yusaka feeling excitement that she was going to have sex again. Both of them knew what to do since they'd done it several times. They got to their knees and began to suck Issei's member, which was fully erected. Kanu was the first to suck him. She quickly began lick around his member. Yusaka decided to have a little fun. Then Kanu felt a hand push her head deep into Issei's member. Kanu was noticed it was her mother smirking while pushing her head. Yusaka spoke, yes. My little slut daughter. I'll help you. Yusaka was making Kanu's head bob back and forth with force with Issei's member. Issei spoke, damn it good. Kanu started to gag as some precum was coming out her mouth. Kanu was feeling more excitement when she getting roughed. After a few minutes, Issei spoke, I'm about to explode. Yusaka pushed Kanu's head deep to Issei's member and kept it still and not letting her move, head still gagging. Issei came inside of Kanu. Kanu was trying to not spill any semen. She started to savor the taste of it. Yusaka spoke, ah yes. Keep savoring it. I know you like it. Kanu kept savoring Issei's semen. Then she completely sucked it all down to her throat. Yusaka let go of Kanu, which Kanu moved her head away. She let out a loud satisfaction. Yum. Issei. Give me your spit. Kanu spoke with lust. This impressed Yusaka, seeing her daughter being more than a slut. Issei gave his spit to Kanu's mouth, which she had her mouth wide open. Kanu swallowed his spit with pleasure. Yusaka spoke, "Now my turn, Issei." Issei was still hard and Yusaka began to bob her head at Issei's member just like her daughter. Kanu decided to do the same as her mother. She pushed her mother head with the same force as before. Yusaka was enjoying the treatment that she was getting. Yusaka began to gag as precum was coming out her mouth, then falling to her large breasts. Issei was getting ready for another load. Issei spoke, cooming again. Then Yusaka stood still with her head and Issei let out a load in her mouth. Yusaka began to swallow his hymen, making loud slurping noises. Then Misaka moved away after drinking his hymen. Yusaka spoke seductively, "We'll say it was delicious big load." Issei made Yusaka lie down on her back and made Kanu lay on top of her mother. Issei spoke, "Now enjoy." Issei placed his member in Yusaka pussy as he placed his hands on Kanu ass. Issei began to move in Yusaka. Yusaka spoke while moaning, "Ah. Yes. Your dick is making me feel good." Kanu saw her face of her mother. She wondered she would look like. Kanu began to squeeze her mother breasts to add effect. After 10 minutes Issei spoke, "I'm cooming." Kanu spoke, "Let my mom feel it." Issei came in Yusaka insides and Yusaka let out a loud howl. Yusaka spoke, "Ah. Ah. Is filling me up." After a minute Issei pulled his member in place on Kanu entrance. Kanu spoke, "Shove it in." Then Issei shoves his member in Kanu. "Ah." Kanu moaned. Then Yusaka hugged her daughter and saw her face red. Issei began to pound her deeply as Kanu had her tongue sticking out. Yusaka spoke to her daughter, "You like it? Huh? Yes mother. I like my husband dick. He is pounding me so good." Kanu responded. After another 10 minutes Issei spoke, cooming. Then Issei gave a large load in Kanu. Kanu gave a howl to the sky. Issei pulled out his member and saw his two wives' pussies were leaking out his hymen. Yusaka spoke, "Kanu, tell Issei that you are his slut." Kanu spoke, "Will say I'm your little slut. Use my body as you wish anytime and anywhere." Issei spoke as he got in front of their faces, "Well said Kanu. Let me give you a reward, also your mother teaching you. Open your mouths wide." Kanu and Yusaka opened their mouth. Issei put his member in Kanu as precum was falling to Yusaka mouth. Then after 10 seconds Issei placed his in Yusaka mouth. He done it repeatedly until he close. Issei spoke, "I'm giving you a facial." Yusaka and Kanu had their mouths open waiting for the load. Then Issei came covering Yusaka and Kanu face with white hymen. They both spoke, "Thank you Issei. We love you." Then Issei lifted his two wives in his and began to kiss their naked bodies before heading back home. End of lemon. Issei was returning back late at night. He smelled of love juice as luckily Ko-won was awake. He took a shower, went to bed with a good mood. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video.